Rebellions are built on hope.
And welcome to another episode of Radio Rebellion, a Star Wars podcast. I'm your host, Alberto Calderon, and thank you for joining us on another Star Wars Friday. As we're still doing episodes on Friday, Saturdays are a bit busy. We'll get back to our regular schedule in the near future. But for now, we're here on Fridays. Sometimes we're not. But it all depends on how much Star Wars news or Star Wars stuff is out there to talk. And today, there's no news. Everything today is about that new Star Wars book that's coming out on Tuesday, February 25, Reign of the Empire, The Mask of Fear. We'll get to that soon. But how are you guys doing? Thanks for joining us. We took a week off last week. There wasn't really a lot to talk about. But today, I had to make time. We had to come and talk about Reign of the Empire. But how are you guys doing? Again, thanks for joining us. If it is your first time here, thank you as always for joining us. Make sure that you subscribe to our channel so you don't miss when any new episodes drop. Usually Saturdays, sometimes Friday, sometimes a week after. And hit that thumbs up button and make sure to leave us then a comment if you're listening to this later on the replay or when you have time. Leave us your thoughts, questions, comments about Reign of the Empire, any other Star Wars book out there that you're excited for. When is Star Wars topic you want us to cover, let us know on the comments and we'll come back and look at those. And if you're listening to the audio podcast, thank you so much. And also give us a 5-star rating and review over there. Just me today. Oti was busy at work. He's going to be busy over there. I'm going to also be busy. Well, he's out this week, which is fine. He hasn't had an opportunity to read Raid of the Empire yet. He'll get to that as soon as this book comes out next week, and I can't wait to hear his thoughts. I want to hear your thoughts also. But today, I will be spoiler-free. Today's review will be a spoiler-free. So, you know what? Let's go ahead. If you guys are ready, I'm not ready. Let's talk Star Wars and Reign of the Empire. I should say The Mask of Fear, Reign of the... let me try this again. The Mask of Fear, Book 1 of the Reign of the Empire trilogy. This first book written by the great Alexander Freed. He's mostly known for the Alphabet Squadron trilogy. I believe he did a Rogue One novelization. The Battlefront series, so a great Star Wars author and great in this type of climate in Star Wars, this time period during the war between the Empire and the Rebels, right before it with the fall of the Republic and the beginning of the Empire. So he was a great choice to start this trilogy. And let's get on it again. This is spoiler free. If there's any spoiler, quote unquote, that I might drop, it's for things that happen in the first 4, 5, maybe even 6 chapters. This is a 72 chapter book. So anything that I kind of spoiled from it was going to be from the beginning, and it really won't kind of diminish your enjoyment of the book. I'll keep all major spoilers away. I'll wait after the book drops on Tuesday. Our written full-on spoiler review drops on Tuesday morning. That's going to be on our website, radiorebellionpodcast.wordpress.com. You can read there. Right now is our non-spoiler review, and then on release day, our full-on spoiler review will be there. If you've listened to our show before, watched us this past couple of months, I've been raving about this book for a while. I got the chance to read an advanced copy. Thank you again to Random House World for sending us an advanced review copy. So I got to read it a while back, and I've just been ranting and raving about how much I love this book, and that hasn't changed. I'm listening to the audiobook at the moment. And I said it before, I'll say it again. I think this book is going to be in a lot of the people's top 5 lists at the end of the year, top 10 lists. I'm sure it's going to be on mine. I know we still have the End of the High Republic, and I'm sure those are going to take some of these spots also. But so far, this book is going to be high up. It's one of my favorite Star Wars book in a while. So hopefully it is for you guys there. And again, if you've listened to our show, watched our show in the past couple of months, some of the things I've said before, I might repeat. I'll just try to be a bit more consistent on everything we talked about before. But again, if you've listened to us before, you might hear me repeat some of the things I said before. So this book takes place, basically it starts a couple of weeks after the end of episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, after the fall of the Republic and the emergence of the Emperor and the Empire. This book starts a couple of weeks afterwards. And then the whole story, from what I've seen from the author, from the publishers, it's about a year. So the whole story is about 1 year. So a lot of people you'll see out there that say that this book takes place a year after Revenge of the Sith. I think the whole story more or less takes about a year. I was surprised with all that we know about Star Wars. I am 40 years, sorry, almost 50 years of Star Wars right now, 48. We know so much about it and about this time period, about the Empire being in charge. But it's still a very abundant, sorry, I'll repeat myself, abundant time period for opportunities to expand the story. Expand how the Empire can virtually pop up out of nowhere, right? Seems that it was a republic a couple of days ago and now the Empire's up. This book delves into it, and you think that there's not a lot of time, but it does a great book to a great job in showing how the Empire kind of pops out, not out of nowhere. This is something that pieces were set in motion years ago, decades ago. And again, if you've watched the Clone Wars and all the other Star Wars periphery items, it kind of starts making sense and all the pieces start falling together. Not to say that this connects to everything that you've watched out there. This is a very singular story. There's a lot of connections, but you don't need to know any of those. But it finds a way to tell that story of how the Empire comes from, not from out of nowhere, like some of the characters think. It's been building up, and once you start seeing it, it was there. Like the red flags were there, just people didn't see it. Although it might seem, and I've posted this or something similar, and a lot of people out there saying that this book is very relevant to today's time, like what's going on in the world right now, and here in the United States mostly, but all across the world. And it feels like it was just written right after, right before the most recent presidential election, right? But Tom Holler, the senior editor, I know he has a new title now, but senior editor at Random House World, said that this book, the first conversations about the Mastosphere and just the Reign of the Empire trilogy, started 2 years ago when Andor was still releasing weekly episodes. So this is a story that has been bubbling for a few years now. So for a lot of people that might think, oh, this is just kind of pointing fingers at what the current administration is doing. Like, no, this is from years ago. And then when you read the acknowledgments at the end of the book, Alexander Freed goes into where he got not his inspiration, but thanks to a lot of historians, a lot of people out there that study this in the real world. And it's something that has happened before. And that's why we always say history is very important. You're doomed to repeat it if you don't learn from it. And this is part of it. So before we keep going, our friend Brennan is here. Brennan, thanks for joining us. Page turners that were not. Hello there, Brennan. Can't wait for you, hopefully, to read this book, Brennan. It's a great read out there for all Star Wars fans. And at the end, I'll talk about who I think might enjoy this book a little bit more than others. Because as much as I love it, I think it might not be for everyone. We'll get to that later. Freed has such a command of these type of stories, like I mentioned before, and I mentioned this a couple of times weeks our previous episode. This book made me angry in certain scenes, certain chapters as I was reading it, and it's not because it is a bad book. Completely the opposite. It's how much it enrages me. Again, going to the real world and what's happening in politics right now, how those situations in the book mirror our current political landscape, how you see things develop, and the people that are supposed to help out, that are in charge or next to the people in charge, are not doing enough or not doing anything to stop them. They just either choose to look the other way or believe that just keeping up with the norm is going to be enough to kind of move away from what's happening, not knowing that if we keep on the same path, the path that brought us to that point, then nothing's going to change. It won't work out. They think it will, just going about it day by day, it's not going to work. So when you read that on a Star Wars book, I was like, oh man, this is happening right now. But getting to see Star Wars also lets you release all those thoughts and all those emotions. So it was kind of like authorities reading it and kind of seeing it in that way, and gives you an outlet to at least get those emotions out. But, and again, if you guys are watching this and you have any questions that might, I mean, you can ask any questions you want about the book. I'll keep my responses spoiler free. But if you want me to answer anything, just go ahead and let me know. The way I'll do this review, I'll go about the main characters of Bail Organa, Mon Mothma, and Saw Gerrera. I'll go over their three journeys individually. Some of them do overlap, and then at the end, I'll talk about some other overall things. Oh, so let's start with Bail Organa, our favorite senator from Alderaan, father to Princess Leia Organa, husband to the Queen Breya Organa. We'll start with him because the book starts with him. It's no, again, some of the things I'm gonna say is from the first couple of chapters. The book starts on Jeddah. He's out on a pilgrimage mission. Basically, there's a procession going on. Very cool, the history behind that procession. But he's there. He wants to find evidence to clear the Jedi's name. That's his only goal right now, is to clear the Jedi's name. He knows what the Emperor did. He knows that Palpatine is Sidious. He was there when they were killing the younglings. So he knows what's going on. So he's trying to find a way to clear the Jedi's name, not just for himself, but for Leia. He knows that his daughter is the daughter of a senator and of a Jedi master. So he wants to do this for her, so she doesn't have to carry that burden if he can't find the truth and dies or whatever happens. He doesn't want Leia to have to carry that burden afterwards. So that's his whole focus, is to clear the Jedi's name. He doesn't believe, even if some of the Jedi masters from the council masters did plot something against the Emperor, against Palpatine, he doesn't believe that everyone was involved in the plot. He doesn't believe, why were the younglings killed? Why were the Padawans killed? They didn't have anything to do with it. I need to find a way to expose Palpatine's lies. All he's doing is, if I can find where the lie is, because Palpatine says that they have the evidence, where's the evidence? Again, kind of wink, wink to what we're seeing right now in real world, when they are getting rid of all these people, some of these agencies, because they found corruption or some evidence. We never see it, right? We gotta believe it without seeing the evidence. That's what Bail Organa is doing, trying to find the evidence that Palpatine says is there that incriminates the Jedi. Show me the evidence. I don't think it exists, so I'm gonna go out of my way to find that the actual evidence is showing that Palpatine created this mess. He's the one that killed the Jedi. And his hope is that if he brings out this truth to the people, that the people will revolt. That this one act showing that the Jedi are always good, were good and not the bad guys, that the people will rally behind it. They will put the Emperor on trial. They will remove him, and we'll be back to how things were. That's his whole focus. And it's all these three people. If you just do them separately, you want to follow them. You believe what they're saying. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt that they're going to overcome at the end. So he's teamed up, like each group has a new character. Like not each group, but sorry, like Mon Mothma gets a character, a new character, Bail Organa gets one character, and Saw Gerrera gets a new character to kind of get the story going. So we get introduced to new people in Star Wars. We have with Bail Organa is Haki, this ISB agent, which the ISB, the Imperial Security Bureau, is brand new. Again, this is just a couple of weeks afterwards. So this ISB agent, whose job is kind of keep an eye out for the senators and the people involved in the delegation of 2000 that we know from the Revenge of the Sith deleted scenes. They're keeping tabs on them. So her job, again, is to keep tabs on them, and she is paired up with Bail Organa. I'm not gonna go into how they get together, that would be a spoiler, but it's great. She has her own agenda. Apart from following Bail, she has her own agenda, why she wants to be out there tracking all these leads that Bail Organa is trying to track. Because Bail goes through to some seedy places in Coruscant Underground, on different planets, He's in silly places where you wouldn't expect him, and she's there kind of keeping an eye on him, but for her own reasons of why she's out. That's a very cool story. She's has a cool relationship with someone else called Chemis. We won't talk about Chemis too much today, but her relationship with her, what Chemis goes out through the book, and most of it will be spoilers, is very interesting. But those two being together is great because it puts kind of what really is going out there in the galaxy in front of Bail Organa when it comes about the Jedi and wanting to clear the Jedi's name. For Hack, it's like she doesn't care about it because she can see what's really happening. I mean, the war is over. People are happy that there's quote unquote peace. They don't want to get back into a war. So he's trying to put that back in Bail Organa's head that I know what you want to do with the Jedi, but look at the state of the galaxy, which is a very big part of this book. So the relationship between those two as the book goes on is one of the best relationship of when you pair these main characters with a new character. I think those two were the ones that work great together. Bail Organa is there with Breya. Breya Organa shows up a couple of times. She's his anchor when he needs someone to bring him down because it's kind of not conspiracy theory, but a little bit because he thinks everything is a conspiracy against the Jedi. She's the one that tries to calm him down. Sometimes not, it doesn't work. But Brea is a great character, so I love that we got a little bit with her. I wish we got a little bit more. There's a chapter I think it's just her, but I wish we got a little bit more with her. But in general, she's a great character to have there again to try to balance out what Bail Organa is going through. And let's move on to Mon Mothma. Again, a lot of I could keep going. It's probably my spoiler reviews probably gonna be about a third to the first half of the book because if we keep going, we'll go into spoilers. So Mon Mothma is both the best and the worst senator. Like she still believes in the rule of law. She still believes that that's the way to get the republic back in place, back to what it was called. Even if it's called the empire, she still sometimes calls it the republic. She wants to get back to that and believes that following the rule of law is the way to go, not realizing that the other people are not playing by those rules. Like everyone else is playing by different set of rules, which again, with what's going on right now in the world, we're trying to have senators and people in government go through the rule of law. This is how things work, even if the actual person in power and those propping him up are trying to play by other rules, and that's not the way it goes. So Mon Mothma is that place. But again, this is Star Wars, it's science fiction, it's fantasy. You want to kind of shake and say, hey, those people are not playing by those rules. You need to change your strategy. But she's playing politics. She's visiting the Coruscant underground after the attack on Coruscant, after the invasion of Coruscant that we saw when they take Palpatine. She's visiting the underground, seeing that there's not enough resources for them. There's still fires going on. Buildings are crumbled down. There's refugees. There's not enough food and shelter for everyone. She's there basically with the rubber boots and her rain jacket, like we see all politicians after a hurricane, after a natural disaster. That's what she's doing. So that's why I say, like, she's playing politics still, but the world has moved over. She's trying to secure votes for her new bill. She's trying to get people together to play along with her and see what they want, what she can put on the bill to help them out. She's having meetings with whatever is left of the delegation of 2000s, which is not that many. It's like 12 people at this point, I think. Her relationship with Bail Organa is great. They have they don't see eye to eye. Chapter 8, I believe, and I won't go into it, it's one of the best chapters, is when she's meeting with the delegation of 2000. I know I just said I won't go into it, but she's meeting with the delegation of 2000, basically telling them her plan of how she thinks they can kind of curtail the emperor's power. She's telling them her plan, and Bail Organa is coming from the other side like, I don't care. I don't think that's going to work. What I think is going to work is showing the truth about the Jedi. So that clash about from Bail thinking of the way to get the Empire and the Emperor to take the Emperor down and bring the Empire back to the Republic is showing the lies of the Jedi. Mon Mothma is going more from the rule of law and using the Senate against the Emperor, and seeing them go head to head was a great scene. These are two characters that we would think are great friends because they're kind of the grandparents of the rebellion. They were both friends with Padma Amidala. She was kind of the bridge between them, and when you take her out, then there's this open chasm. They don't really see eye to eye, and that's something I never thought about. They're part of the rebellion, so I thought they were gonna be friends. Not really. Like they're co-workers. Like, yeah, I can work with you. I really don't agree with everything you're saying and with your methods, but we can work together. Right now, there's a big rift between them on how to move forward, and it puts a lot of great tension when you get those two characters together. Plus, after the war, they went through two very different scenarios. There were both, and a lot of people were arrested. A lot of the senators of the delegation of 2000 were arrested, and they went through different, I'll say, different scenarios at the moment. I can't think of another word, and that also has some of that tension. For her, the character that I believe is a new character is this other senator called Lord Maroy. He's more centralist, going to Palpatine's side, kind of a Democrat working with a Republican at this time period. So they don't want to be seen together too often, so people don't think that they're really working together. Just in regular events, that's fine. But there's a lot of scenes where Lord is trying to help her in the sense of, I can get you a meeting with this senator. I can. If you think that people are spying on you, I'll get you a secure room somewhere so you can have your meeting. So he's that type of in between to help her kind of move along or move through what's going on with the new empire inside Coruscant without being seen or being noticed by other senators. So he's that in between. And there's some rumors and things going around that play into it, which is also very cool to see how Mon Mothma works around this. That brings us to Perrin, the great Perrin Firtha, which we first met in Andor. He's here in a couple of scenes, couple of chapters, usually being that cool, charming guy that he is. In the show, you can see that he was this cool, charming guy that Mon Mothma has when she can get senators or representatives or whatever to listen to her plan. He's there kind of not kind of arm candy to liven the mood a little bit and get them to open up. So it's always great to see Perrin when her politicking is not working, then he's there to help her secure votes. We get a little bit more insight into how they got married, why they married so early, what their relationship is at the moment, which of course then translates to how we see them in Andor, which is about 15 years after this. So at this point, they don't have their daughter. So it's how's that relationship 15, 16 years before we meet them in Andor. So it's very interesting to see their dynamic. There's times it surprises you the way that they act around each other, and other times it's what we would expect. When Mon Mothma is arrested after the fall of the Republic, it's a very hard chapter. Talks about all her emotional, physical suffering, mental suffering. So it's a hard chapter to get through. But Mon Mothma and Bale both suffer of the same ailment, that they think that one noble act will be enough to bring back what they left, what they lost, which is what the Republic. They think if we can do this one thing, that'll be enough to bring everything back. And again, not knowing that it's already passed. Like they're playing 5 years ago. What they're doing now maybe could have worked 5 years ago. Right now, the Empire's in a completely different trajectory, and it's something that they either didn't know or didn't believe that could happen, and it just left them behind. Mon Mothma of the three, I think, is the one that gets most pages. But her story is the one that needs to be developed more. Like Bail Organa is not easy, but I gotta find a way to clear the Jedi's name, and that's everything he does is toward that point. And it's a great storyline that goes, and it intersects with the Saw Gerrera storyline we'll get to in a minute. But Mothman playing all the political games takes a little bit more time to get everything together because she's playing with trying to get people to agree to this bill that she's writing from the anti-empire, the pro-empire, the separatists that are joining the empire now. So she has to meet with all these different players and get them to listen to her. So it's gonna take a bit more time to get through those. So it makes sense that she gets a little bit more of the page count, which is fine because it's probably one of the best. I don't know. I can't say what was my favorite storyline because all the three are great for different reasons. The Saw Gerrera line, we'll go into it now. I'll say it off the bat, not the one that suffers, but the one we get the least of. Past halfway point, three quarters, it kind of goes away, and then it comes back at the end. So I kind of miss Saw Gerrera halfway through the book. So it's Saw. We love him. He tells it as it is. He's the only one with clarity of purpose. Right now, he's not at that degree that we find him on Andor and in Rogue One. Again, this is about 15 years before the Andor TV show. But he has his little band. He's attacking this pirate ship that has stolen some separatist weapons. So he's trying to arm himself and his band for what he wants to do. He's not going to go attack the Emperor and the Empire on Coruscant. He knows that won't work, but he has his own agenda. And during this attack, I guess, on the pirate ship, he finds something more valuable. And that comes in the form of this new character called Sujan, or Sujan Vac Nadis, I think is his full name, but Sojan. He's the separatist agent. I call him the Star Wars version of the Winter Soldier. Like he was awoken. He was frozen and he was awoken for this one purpose. So this ex-separatist agent, his storyline is tied up with Saw for the most part. Then there's a one point, I won't go into that. That's more spoilers, I think. But his main objective was to continue the war. If the separatists lost, his objective was to continue the war, commit assassination attempts, create chaos, topple government. So again, very Winter Soldier-like. But Saw Gerrera gets to him before he can, when he's basically activated. He wakes up because where he was kept kind of got destroyed. So he's still trying to figure out what happened. He said, okay, if I'm up, that means a separatist lost, but he doesn't know what comes next. So he's trying to find out what's come next. Did the separatists leave a secret message somewhere for me to know what to do? Who do I kill? Do I go to Coruscant? Do I go here? Do I go there? He's trying to find out where he belongs right now. And Saw Gerrera is trying to arm himself. His purpose in this book, or his I don't know. I had it on my notes. I left. It doesn't matter. So his sole focus was on liberating worlds like Onderon. So we know what happened to Onderon in Clone Wars. He wants to liberate worlds like that. So direct attacks to different Imperial outposts to liberate those planets, which is what we saw him do I believe, in Clone Wars, in Rebels. That's kind of what he's doing, trying to liberate all these planets. So his storyline and Sojan's is very tied together because Saw wants to find the separatist weapons cache, go to wherever the separatists were keeping weapons and arm himself. And Sojan believes that in those places he might find the answer that he wants, that he's looking to. So yeah, again, while Bail Organa is focused on the Jedi, Mon Mothma is playing politics to save the Republic. Saw Gerrera is trying to arm himself to save or liberate places like Onderon. Most of his story is tied up to Sujan's. And again, if I go too deep into Sujan's story, it will go into spoiler territory, so I'll leave that for later. And like I said before, we kind of lose him a little bit halfway through the book. His storyline is kind of complete, and there's a scene at the end that brings a lot of people together. So those are our main characters. They're all going through different journeys. They do have scenes together, like I mentioned. Mon Mothma and Bail do meet. Saw Gerrera and Bail meet in one scene. And there is, I don't think this is a spoiler because I won't say what happened, but there is a scene with all three of them. Mon Mothma, Bale, and Saw Gerrera do meet in one chapter. Very important chapter for what's going to happen with the rebellion. So a very important chapter when they meet. So some of the cool things from the book, we get reintegration day, which is where the separatist worlds are welcomed back into the empire or are welcome to join the empire. This is something that's throughout the book. They're talking about the separatists and who's going to join the empire and why they might want to join. Of course, there are protests against this reintegration. There's a lot of people that don't believe that the group that caused for the war that killed millions of people should join the empire. So of course there's a group out there called the 4040 that are leading a lot of these protests. That's in this second half of the book, so a lot of spoilers over there, but it's great to see this. There's a Ecuno Melopolis. I'll say it's that a city planet, or yeah, a city planet like Coruscant. There's a new one that's introduced called Eyo Dajurit, and I say it's new, but it's an extremely old planet. I think this is even older than the High Republic, probably Old Republic. A lot of the action happens on that planet. The history behind that planet is very interesting. A lot of important things happen on Eyo Dajurit, and I hope it's a world that we get to see in new stories, either High Republic or further back, because this point that planet is not in the best scenario. I want to see when it was this jewel, basically. So I hope we get to see more of Eyo Dajurit. One of my favorite chapters happens toward the end is Masamida and Mon Mothma. One of my favorite scenes. There's so much in that chapter. So just keep reading when you get to that Mon Mothma and Masameda scene is just great. So who's this book for? If you're a Star Wars fan, you'll probably like it. There's a lot to enjoy here. If you didn't like Rogue One, if you didn't like Andor because they were too slow, too political, there weren't any Jedi, weren't any talk about the Force or things of that nature, you might not enjoy it. If you don't like politics, either in Star Wars or real world politics, you might not enjoy this book. If you're a fan of Andor, all the Mon Mothma scenes, the Luton Rail scenes that have to do with politics and all the back channel that they do, you're gonna love this book. If you love the scenes in Rogue One where they're meeting on Yavin and trying to decide how to move forward, and all the Saw Gerrera scenes, you'll enjoy this book. There's a lot here to enjoy if you like that part of Star Wars and just politics in general. If you don't enjoy those, I think you'll have a tough time enjoying the book. Maybe, come on, surprise me, read it and let me know that I was wrong. It is a long book. Like I mentioned before, it's 72 pages. So it takes a while to get through the whole book. A lot of the chapters, especially in the first half, are pretty long. I think I read pretty fast, and it'll take me a while to get some of those chapters through. I've been listening to the audio book, and it doesn't seem as long in the other book, so I don't know if maybe I was reading slow those days. But take your time. Don't try to push through it and read it in a couple of days. Just take your time, read a chapter here or there, but you'll enjoy it. But again, it's a long book, so just be ready for it. The state of the galaxy is very important. Like I said, for us and for Bail Organa, Saw Gerrera, and Mon Mothma, they're still in this mentality of war and being a battle. There's peace out there, and that's something they don't understand. So the state of the galaxy is very important in this book. If you're gonna listen, if you're waiting for the audiobook, I'm just gonna say it's not narrated by Mark Thompson. So for people that want or are expecting Mark Thompson to narrate the book, he's not there. The book is read by January Lavoie, and she does a great job, but don't expect all the voices that Mark Thompson does. So his litany of voices out there, they're not there. She does use a couple of different voices, but it's not to what Mark Thompson does. But after you get through the first couple of chapters, you're fine. she's the one reading, and it's extremely enjoyable. She has a great voice, and you can distinct it between characters if they're talking to each other. So you'll be fine there. As always, the audio production is great, the music is great, the soundtrack. Since a lot of the book it's talking and it's political scenes, there's not a lot of sound effects and big music. It's not always there, especially in the first half or the first quarter of the book. It takes a little bit to then get going, but just giving it a little heads up out there. So all three books, I didn't know this, cover the 19-year gap from Revenge of the Sith to A New Hope, and there's years of a gap of years between each book. So this book that ends now, for book 2, there's gonna jump, I don't know, 5-6 years in the future. So all these characters are gonna be in a different position. Excuse me. So that's gonna be very interesting going forward. So again, Reign of the Empire, The Masosphere comes out on Tuesday, February 25th. Alexander Freed did a great job. Again, one of my favorite books Star Wars book I've read in a long time, in the past couple of years. It's already my top 5. I gotta figure out where it falls. Book 2 by Rebecca Ronhorst, who did the Resistance Reborn book, comes out spring of 2026. And then book 3 by Fran Wilde, who did the No Contingency short story on the From a Certain Point of View, Return of the Jedi, which has to do with Mon Mothma and the rebellion. She's writing the 3rd book, and that comes out spring of 2027. So 1 book per year, which is fine. Again, it's a long book, and there's a lot to dig in, and people are going to be talking about this book for a while. So again, guys, that's it. That's my non-spoiler, as much as I can, review of The Masosphere, Reign of the Empire, book 1 by Alexander Freed. I love this book. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. Again, ease of reading, it does take a little bit to go through it, so that took a little bit out. But everything expands what we know about Star Wars. There's a lot of cool canon connection. Character work is great. The story is great, and it's a complete story from chapter 1 to chapter 72, but leaves enough for the next author to do their story. So can't wait for you guys to read this one. So yeah, let me know once this book comes out. I want to hear from you guys what you thought about it. If you're in the same vibe that I am, maybe you're not a fan of these type of stories and the book resonated with you. I want to hear from you guys what you thought. Okay, that does it for us today. We'll be back hopefully next week. It all depends if there's anything out there to talk about in the Star Wars world as we get closer to Star Wars Celebration. There'll be a lot of rumors. We won't worry too much about those. We'll wait for confirmation, and then we'll go. There'll be a lot of stuff after Celebration with Andor Season 2 coming out. But from now on, from here to there, we'll play it by ear, see what's going on out there in the Star Wars universe. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you guys for joining. We'll see you next time. Stay safe, be safe, and may the Force be with you. See ya.